In the last video, we looked at the prime factorization of whole numbers. In the second video in this series, we'll be looking at the simplification of fractions, or simply reducing fractions. And let me just go over some basic ideas before we go into the problems. Typically, we think of a fraction as something to the form, say, a over b, where a is referred to as the numerator, b is referred to as the denominator. Now, if it turns out that a and b are, say, integers, then we can also call such a number a rational number. Okay. Keep in mind, though, here b cannot be 0. Okay. But typically, everything in the form a over b is referred to as a fraction. Now, some basic ideas here. If I take, for example, a pie and cut it into 2 equal pieces, then one piece would be 1/2 of the pie. Alright, so if you take one piece, you got a half of the pie. Now keep in mind that if I have a pie and I cut it into 4 equal pieces, and I take 2 of them, I still have half of the pie. If I cut it into 6 equal pieces and take 3 of the pieces, then I've got, again, half the pie. Okay, so 1 over 2 or 1/2, 2 over 4 or 2/4, or 3 over 6 or 3/6, it's the same fraction. Okay, so notice if I start with 1/2, I multiply the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2, I get the second fraction. If I multiply the first fraction by 3 in the numerator and 3 in the denominator, I get the third fraction over here. So basically then, I'm allowed to multiply the numerator and the denominator of the fraction by the same number, and whatever fraction I get is going to be equal to the original one. Okay, and the reason for that is, let me take, for example, a different one, say 3 over 5. I'm going to multiply the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2, and that's going to give me the fraction 6 over 10. So 3 over 5 or 3/5 is the same thing as 6 over 10 or 6/10. Okay, and the reason that works is because right here, when I multiply by 2 over 2, 2 over 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1. That's what this is saying. Okay, so a fraction is an implied division. So when if I write a over b, I can also write that as a divided by b. Okay, it's an implied division. Okay, but usually we leave it in that form. Okay, so we can get one fraction, and from that particular fraction we can generate a bunch of equivalent fractions by simply multiplying the numerator and denominator by some fixed value. Okay, so in this particular case, we're going to look at simplification of fractions. And keep in mind, and I say you can divide the numerator and the denominator or multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number. You can also divide, and it's going to work out, right? Because if I start with 2 over 4, divide the 2 on top by 2, I get 1. Divide the 4 by 2, I get 2 over here. So it's the same thing. If I start off with this one, divide the numerator by 3 and the denominator by 3, I still get 1/2. Okay, so it works both ways. Let's clear this, and let's look at what we're going to look at. Simplify each of the following. Okay, so the word simplify actually means reduce. Okay, or write the fraction in lowest terms. Okay, in algebra you see simplify a lot. Instead of reduce, I use the word simplify. But okay, they're pretty much equivalent. So here's a procedure that you use to simplify a fraction. If you want to simplify a fraction or reduce a fraction, is you prime factor the numerator, prime factor the denominator, and then you divide out or cancel like factors. Okay, that's the procedure for reducing or simplifying a fraction. prime factor the numerator, prime factor the denominator, and then cancel like factors or divide like factors. Now in the last video I went over the prime factorization. I'm going to do the first one only here, just to illustrate what we did last time. So again, the prime factor, we take the number and divide it by the smallest prime that divides it. 2 is the smallest prime that divides 24. This comes out to 12. Okay, and then you keep going. 12, the smallest prime that divides 12 is 2. Okay, comes out to 6 then. And the smallest prime that divides into 6 is 2 again. And this comes out to 3. And of course 3 is a prime, so the smallest prime that divides 3 is 3. So I get 1. And then you stop. So the factors that make up the number is right here on the left. 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. So in the last video I said you could write 2 times 2 times 2 as 2 to the 3 if you wanted to, using an exponent. I'll go ahead and leave it this way. And then the denominator can be factored, prime factored, by taking the 54. The smallest prime that divides into 54 is 2. So this comes out to 27. Smallest prime that divides into 27. 2 won't go, but 3 does. Okay, this will go 9 times. Smallest prime that divides into 9 is 3. Goes 3 times, and the smallest prime that divides into 3 is 3. I guess it's 1. Okay, so the product of those numbers is the prime factorization. So you're going to put the 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. Okay, and I could also write that as 3 to the 3rd power, but I'll just leave it in that form. Okay, and then what you want to do is just divide these out. Okay, divide. So this 2, say, and this 2, you can divide 1 on top and 1 on the bottom. This 2 and this 2 divide out. Say this 3 and this 3 divide out. Okay. And what's left? Nothing else we can cancel. So we multiply what we left. Now keep in mind that when we divide out, these actually become 1. So this is a 1 here, this is a 1 here, this is a 1 here, this is a 1 here. So you multiply everything that's left. 2 times 2 times 1, that gives me 4. Okay. And then 1 times 1 times 3 times 3, that's going to be 9. Okay. And this is your answer then. This is the reduced form of a fraction, or the simplified form. And a fraction is simplified if and only if the numerator and denominator only have one common factor, and that common factor has to be 1. Okay. If they have something other than 1 as a common factor or a divisor, then it's not in lowest terms. Okay, so that gives me the solution. Okay, clear this. Go to the next one. Okay, in the same way, 35 over 75, you would prime factor these. Okay, so I'm not going to go through that, but 35 factors into 5 times 7. 75 factors, doing the same procedure that I illustrated in the first one, which I also did last week, or in the last video. I get this factorization. And then you divide out your common factors. You can cancel one factor on top with one factor on the bottom. They have to be the same, okay? So this 5 here, let's see here. This 5 here divides out, I put a 1 there, divides out with this one right here. Okay. And then you multiply what you have left. So on top you have 1 and a 7, so 1 times 7 is 7. The bottom you have 3 times 5 times 1 there, so that's 15. That's in lowest terms, 7 over 15. That's your reduced fraction, or simplified fraction. Now I do want to point out that can you simplify or reduce these or get the answer without going through the prime factorization? Yeah, you can do that. But when you get into algebra, you're not dealing with numbers, you'll be dealing with expressions. So it's not going to be that easy to just look at the numerator and look at the denominator and tell what's going to go into both and then get your answer. Okay, so it's going to be a different story when you deal with algebraic expressions. Okay. Go to the next one. This is an example for like the one I've been saying. Okay, it should be clear. It should be clear to you that 30 over 60 is 1/2, right? You have 30 is half of 60, so they should reduce to 1/2. Okay, so you can give the answer. Okay, but again, when you get into algebraic expressions, it's not going to be like that. So procedure is to prime factor the numerator. There it is. 2 times 3 times 5 is 30. And the bottom, 2 times 2 times 3 times 5 is 60. And then just divide out your common factors. So this 2, say, divides out with this 2. This 3 divides out with this 3. Put 1s there. This 5 divides out with this 5. Multiply what you have left. On top, you'll have all 1s, so that gives me 1. In the bottom, I have all 1s and a 2, so that's going to give me a 2. That's 1/2. Okay. Clear this. Go to the next one. 14 over 41. Okay, 14 over 41. Numerator factors into 2 times 7. The denominator is a prime, so it doesn't factor any further. It stays like that. So obviously there's nothing we can cancel out. So 2 times 7 is 14. So in this case, we say that the fraction is already in simplified form. It's already in lowest terms. It's already reduced, different terms you can use there. But in this case, this is your answer. Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to continue with these types of videos, very basic stuff on arithmetic, and then kind of set the foundation and go into some algebra. You'll see the same types of procedures in algebra, but of course it's going to be a little bit different because we're dealing with variables. Okay, well, hope these will help you eventually sometime in your studies. And again, if you ever have any suggestions on other types of videos that you want to see, just post them, and I'll look at what you say. And especially if you're subscribing, I will listen to your suggestions. So we'll see you in the next video. Take care.